Anyway, second story I want to talk about is blatant racism from people who consider themselves anti-racism activists, journalists who blog for some of the most popular, left-wing liberal newspapers and newspapers that are far left who pretend that they're centrist. They're like, no, we're neutral, but secretly they're obviously not. So the story here is Esquire magazine decided to do a new little series where they're putting a bunch of different communities, but they started it out with a 17-year-old middle-class white male teenager growing up in a divided America. So they put, and this, of course, this is controversial in 2019, although I'm going to get into statistics. America is still a mostly white country. It's just statistically, factually true. There's nothing more controversial than a 17-year-old white middle-class white male teenager growing up in a divided America. So that's all they did. They put this white kid on their cover, and they're like, hey, we're going to talk about this white kid. The editor explains that the cover, so even the editor's like telling them, listen, it's not just going to be a bunch of white kids. We're going to do everybody. The editor said, 26 years later, we decided to follow that model, but to enlarge it into a series on growing up now. White, black, LGBTQ, female, that will continue to appear in coming issues. So they're just letting you know, it's not just white kids. We're going to do everyone. Black, gay, this, that. We got everyone. Please don't attack me. I'm so sorry for putting a white teenager on the cover. Like, please, we're going to come. So let me read you some of the responses. And probably the creepiest part about these responses is the fact that it's coming from journalists, bloggers, people that have serious social influence in some of the most liberal organizations on the planet. And they also have a lot of blue check marks, which means they're verified celebrities for Twitter. Pretty creepy. We're going to start with Abigail Collazo, who isn't verified, but she's the digital organizer, feminist, and director of strategic communications for Stacey Abrams. Interesting. Congratulations. That's a good gig. So she quoted what I just quoted, where they're going to do all these other groups as well. And she said, okay, but think about the profile you choose to start with. So even though they've said, we're going to do black, white, LGBTQ, female, she's not happy, director of organized feminist activist in her own words. She's not happy that they started with a white teenager. Nothing triggers a racist liberal or activist more than being white and being a teenager and not being a gender queer, trapezist who has 29 cats and hates themselves and hates this country and wants to buy into communist ideology that killed hundreds of millions of people. I mean, if you're not that, it really triggers them. So I'm going to read what she said again, and then we're going to go to statistics of race in America. She said, okay, but think about the profile you choose to start with. Very triggered. I mean, how dare you start with a white teenager? Let's see. According to Google reports, 61.3% of America is white, and 76.9% of America is white if you include white Hispanics and Latinos and Latinas. So 76.9% of the country. How dare Esquire start with literally what our country's mostly made of on a magazine and in a pop culture phenomena the last 3 years, where you've literally been pandering to like 0.005%. There's probably been like 10,000 covers of trans, queer, gender this, black that, woman that, which is great. I want representation for anyone. To be honest, I'm not racist, unlike these people who are extremely racist, so I don't really care what they're doing. If the person's worthy of a magazine cover, hopefully they have some sort of talent or reason that they're there. That's all I really care about. But is it really that crazy to think that Esquire put a white teenager, when 61.3% or 76.9% of our country is that race? Does that bother you that much? I think it does. Let's move on. This next one is from Fran Tirado, who is, I believe, a gay writer for Out magazine. Don't quote me on that, but I didn't write it down. So Fran Tirado said, finally, the representation we've been waiting for. Oh, he's the deputy editor of Out magazine, which is a gay magazine. So it was just a little sarcastic. Finally, haha, we've been waiting for a white kid. We get it. It's not that bad. I'm not that triggered by it. We'll move on. Fran's like, you right. Tyler McCall said, and we'll get into who Tyler McCall is, or will we? Let's see. Tyler McCall said, I get what Esquire was going for here, but ooh boy, talk about failing to read the room. Read that again. Tyler McCall said, I get what Esquire was going for here, but ooh boy, talk about a failure to read the room. What room are you talking about? Because 76.9% of America is white, so it's a pretty big room. Also, how many people voted for Trump? A lot. How many white teenagers are there? I mean, is it really that crazy? What room? What room are you in? You got to leave the room, Tyler McCall. And I'm not being mean, but your room is the very small room. You're not reading the room of America. You're not reading the room of the world. It's backfiring in Canada. It's backfiring in Brazil. It's backfiring in Europe. It's backfiring in Africa, and it's backfiring in America drastically. I'm getting messages from like people who don't like Trump at all, who've been Democrat their whole lives, and they've always stood up for the unions, and they're like, you know what? I'm so tired of these liberal hypocrites who are so nasty. I'm voting for Trump next time. And I'm like, whoa, that's somebody who really never was even likes Trump now. They're just so tired of like these type of people. Read the room. You read the room. You sit in a room with like 20 other people who have no sort of individuality. I'm a woman. I'm this. I'm that. And they just circle jerk. Walls are racist. Meanwhile, they're sitting in an office with 4 walls. They're like, walls don't work. Then knock your walls down and be outside. Get rained on if walls don't work. Obviously, walls work. And they are reading the room. It's a majority of the country that you can't even let have a moment. One moment. It's like every single magazine cover is this, that, this. The only time you're white is if you're a liberal and you're like, I hate myself and I feel bad for my color. And then they're like, you're getting the cover of Vibe for sure. You got to be like Macklemore. You got to be like, I'm so sorry for the privileges that got me here. And they're like, he has a point. Finally, Macklemore has a point. I was beginning to think he was a white supremacist. It's like, dude, they read the room. Next is William Sommer, the tech and internet reporter for the Daily Beast. This should be good. He wrote, triggered by the cover of a white teenager from Wisconsin. Nothing scarier than a white teenager literally just trying to exist. He said, totally baffled by this 7,000 word plus Esquire story about a run-of-the-mill Republican teen who likes cool sneakers. And then he followed it up with, ominously, we're told it's part 1 of a new series. Oh no! I'm baffled by a 7,000 word Esquire story about a run-of-the-mill Republican teen who likes cool sneakers. I mean, golly gee. It's so ominous. They might do 2 articles on him. Maybe they'll do 3 or 4. Oh my God. Maybe 76% of the population will be responsible for 10% of media coverage. Oh no, we might actually give a voice to the people who literally are a majority in this country. God forbid they get 10% of a 95% sold out media that panders to 0.000004%. And it's like activism. Meanwhile, people are killing themselves and overdosing on opioids, and families can't stay together. They're like, I wonder why. It's because they listen to people who don't know what they're talking about. Let's move on to Meredith Goldstein, however you want to say it, Boston Globe writer and advice columnist. God help anybody who's reading advice from these people. Choosing to read this instead of Esquire cover. And she posts Out cover, Out is a gay magazine, with a bunch of black women on it. And I looked into it more, and it said they dedicated the entire issue to non-binary femmes, who only women and only non-binary femmes wrote, styled, and photographed that whole Out magazine. Revolutionary, because nothing says equality and freedom like a segregated magazine who only lets a small fringe group of people write in the magazine. Nothing screams liberalism like segregation. They're like, we're so woke, we're gonna segregate an award ceremony at Harvard. I'm like, what? I thought segregation was racist, but I guess when liberals do it to themselves, it's woke. Meredith Goldstein, thank goodness she writes at Boston Globe. I'm sure a lot of people really need her advice. Choosing to read this cover instead of Esquire cover, and it's just like women that are like, you know, mid to plus size, like wearing like some sort of African Indian attire. It was cool. I'm not gonna lie. Like I have no problem with that. I'm just being humorous while I still can be, because I understand if I was in Canada or UK, I could probably get arrested for being hilarious. But here in the United States, we like to push the boundaries a little bit while we still have free speech. Good job, Outcover. I'm glad you dedicated an entire issue to non-binary femmes, and only women who and non-binary femmes wrote, styled, and photographed. Revolutionary. Congrats. And that, I'm not even being sarcastic. I'm sure that's the first time that was done, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to some more brilliant quotes from these very, very nice people who aren't even remotely racist or hateful towards men and white people and basically anybody who, you know, defends sovereignty and individual liberties and freedom, and basically, you know, I don't know, just the principles of like the most free society probably ever, and the fact that, you know, we're thriving unlike any civilization in human history ever. I mean, you know, no big deal. This is from Rachel Veron Cote, I don't know how to pronounce it, who's worked for New Republic, Pitchfork. Reason I'm saying this is all these people write for like big liberal blogs. They're not nobodies. Esquire really making choices during Black History Month, no less. So I guess you're not allowed to write. I mean, you're so woke that during Black History Month, you're not allowed to have any white teenagers on the cover. So Black History Month means no white press whatsoever. You can't have any magazine of any white people on it. They're going to be triggered. God forbid you pander to 60 to 75% of the population during a month that even people like Morgan Freeman said, I don't want. And then he's like, why don't you want Black History Month? He's like, do you have a White History Month? And then Mike Wallace is like, oh, no, I'm Jewish. I'm not white. He's like, well, do you have a Jewish History Month? And then Mike Wallace says, no. And then Morgan Freeman's like, I don't want a Black History Month. He's like, so how are we going to stop racism? He's like, stop talking about it. I'm a multi-millionaire. I'm one of the most respected. I mean, he didn't say this. I'm saying it for him. He's one of the most respected actors out. He has God knows how many tens of millions of dollars. Maybe he just wants to be known as a successful American actor who did better than everyone else. Maybe he doesn't want to be looked at like black man. They're like, here's the award for Morgan Freeman. Look how diverse I am. Look at me. I'm so not racist giving awards to black people. Like at that point, it just seems racist. Give it to people because they're funnier and better than you. And there's plenty of black people who are. I have no problem with you giving them the awards they deserve, but it's like when you pat yourself on the back, doesn't make sense. Jamel Hill, our friend Jamel Hill said, because you know what we don't discuss enough, the white male experience. She's now a writer for Atlantic since her ESPN debacle or whatever happened, but she's a writer now, so she's triggered. We don't talk about the white experience enough. I would argue, I mean, to be honest, I don't care. I'm not saying I don't care about people's experience, but it's like everyone's like, oh, I need to tell my story. Yeah, that's fine. It's not even a big deal to me, but it's like, to be honest, media never talks about white people anymore. They just hate on them and blame them for everything. So I do think we don't talk about it enough, but I'm not here like a snowflake, like my feelings are not getting, I don't care about my feelings. I'm tired of this like false outrage. Oh my goodness, Gucci has blackface shirts. Like, you just realized Gucci has weird clothes? They sell $600 t-shirts to people, who have way too much money, and literally like they have the goofiest fashion shows. They're like dressed as a giraffe. They're like, huh, and then like they've been doing goofy fashion shows for years. You just realize that it's stupid. Anyway, let's move on to Jaya Sextana, who, I can't read my handwriting, so I'm just going to read their quote. Oh, GQ magazine, nice. Good. I'm glad they're getting published there. The bummer is Esquire has a lot of great voices. Anytime shit like this happens, at any publication, it overshadows all of that. So the bummer is Esquire has a lot of great voices. Anytime shit like this happens at any publication, it overshadows all of that. So I think it was a he or she. I didn't see. Plus, I don't want to assume the gender because she might be a non-gender binary. So, you know, she's like, you know, don't let this overshadow everything else Esquire does. They're a great publication. We're sorry that they put a white teenager from Wisconsin on the cover. Like, we apologize. Like, they do good work, though. Like, don't let, like, do you realize how racist that seems? It's like, hey, just don't worry. Like, we're going to do, like, imagine if there was a cover that was, you know, a Republican cover, and then they put, like, a black conservative or a black liberal, like Van Jones on the, or anyone. They're like, hey, guys, don't let that, they got good work. I mean, I guess I get it politically, but overall, it's like, chill. Don't worry, guys. Just, and it's not even a politician. It's just like a 17-year-old kid. He's like, I feel lost. Keep in mind also, men are more likely to overdose on drugs. They're more likely to die on the job significantly. There's a huge problem, a drug problem that affects guys even more than women. Statistically, it's like guys are dying, okay? There's a woman's crisis, sure. But there's also, you know, men need some love too. Isn't there a little love and compassion for a little white? Like, I'm not going to be like, oh man, they published a black teenager who's liberal on a cover. Like, so? Racist. And then we'll read another one. It says, Eugene Scott. Thank goodness this guy works at the Washington Post. I'm really glad. What are the demographics of Esquire readers? I would assume that most of their readers are already connected to white middle-class teenage boys, and therefore already know what it is like being one of them. So, I'm just trying to follow the logic of Eugene Scott. Man, this guy works at Washington Post. That's insane. So he's saying, don't they know their demographics? Since they probably have a majority of white readers, they're not allowed to put a white person on the cover because they already know what it's like. So a magazine's not allowed to talk to the people who read them. They're only allowed to promote other people who don't relate to them or who don't share anything in common with them when it comes to race or gender. Like, the logic is insane. Like, dude, Esquire has a lot of mostly white readers, so how dare them put a white teenager on the cover? It's absolutely insane, and I'm not going to call it racist, you know, because that's a broad term that I feel like people are misusing, and it doesn't help anybody. But the left is what I feel like is very racist when it comes to a lot of things. I mean, racism means by definition, and they're trying to take that away, hating a whole group of people and, you know, being extremely nasty to them based on their skin color. Sexism is hating and being extremely nasty towards anyone of a certain gender for any reason and, you know, showing no love and compassion. That's an awful definition of what it is, but you get the gist. Liberal, feminist, activist, transformational, you know, Huffington Post, Washington Post, GQ, like all of these, Boston Globe, all of these magazines, they're the most racist and sexist people in the country. They're more racist and sexist than the extremists that they write about all the time. They're like, look how racist these people are. You're more racist than them, which is sad. You're more sexist than the people you claim to be sexist, or that are sexist. It's getting insane. These people, and I've been saying this for a while, they don't like white people. They literally hate white people. They hate white teenagers. And it's legitimately frightening if you have kids or parents, you know, who are older or younger, the most vulnerable people in society. They hate white people. Not everyone, but the media elites, the ones who are responsible for, you know, curating the Twitter feed and the YouTube feeds and this and the Boston Globe and this and that. They're all extremely racist. They don't live by Martin Luther King's ideology, which is you can't drive out darkness with darkness. Only light can do that. You can't drive out hate with hate. All they do is hate. And they've gotten to the point now that they are more hateful than the most fringe people that they claim that are the worst. They're worse. I've watched the craziest people on all sides, and I'm like, you know what? There's some bad people on the right, but these people are worse than them. Literally. They're more racist. They're more sexist. They have no concept of pretty much anything. They don't want white people to exist. It makes them so mad that it's 60 to 75% of the country. They want to lower that. They don't want you to be able to read a cover with your own race on it. And for Black and Hispanic and Jewish and Asian conservatives, they don't really like you either. They just pretend to like your race, and then the fact you're like, I love this country, I'm appreciative, I have a job, I don't spend all my days hating on, white people. They hate you as soon as they find out you don't hate as much as them. Is that not the definition of hate? If you're Black or you're Hispanic or you're Jewish or you're Asian or you're white, and you're not a self-hatred person who hates yourself, who feels weak and victimized and hates your country and wants to, rebel by giving all the power, money, and control of the health industry to the federal government, they don't like you. I can't think of a more oppressive ideology than hating everybody who wants to preserve the freedoms, personal liberties, and prosperities of Western civilization that you don't find in South America, that you don't find in even Europe now, you don't find in Africa, you don't find it in the Middle East, you don't find it, even in Canada they have weird speech laws now, and their, high taxes are backfiring tremendously. So, you are the oppressor. Mrs. Goldstein and Mr., I have 29 different genders and I appreciate all of them, and one day I'll turn into a dragon and fly away to a faraway village. I don't care how many genders you have. I don't care if you're transitioning. I don't care if you're transforming. I don't care if you're getting plastic surgery. I don't care if you're doing anything. I really don't. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're bi. I don't care if you're Q, whatever Q means on LGBTQ. I still have no idea what it means. I don't care if you're the last 5 letters combined that they added because they went full psycho and LGBTQ wasn't enough for the extremists. I literally don't care. I have literally, as I'm filming this, my gay friend just sent me a message about Jussie Smollett and how Joe Budden, who's a rapper, called him out for what he thinks is lying. I have gay friends. I have LGBT friends. They're just not nasty and negative and hateful like this small fringe of psycho leftist journalists. To be honest, they're we hate white people and white teenagers, and we're going to make up a whole fake story about a Native American loser who, basically incited this, but then then there's Black Israelites screaming at the kids using racial slurs and the N-word, and we're going to pretend like it's all the teenagers' fault because they're white. Literally, they don't like white people. And then if they find out that you're Black or Hispanic or Asian, and you don't play into their victim mentality, if you support the first 2 amendments, if you're not triggered by everything, honestly, if you have a life and a job and a soul, and you don't spend all day on your computer being I'm so mad that this magazine cover didn't use all binary people to write, that's segregation. You're segregating based on weird gender terminology and what? Just let the best people write the best articles. You can't even let gay people fight to the top anymore. They're hey, someone comes into work and he's hey, what's going on? I thought I was gonna write for this art. They're sorry, Billy. I know you're G. I know you're B. I know you may one day be T. I know you feel Q, but you're not a binary queer woman who identifies. So. Sorry, you're not going to write for Out Magazine today. He's oh man, I've been gay my whole life for this. Come on, I started this movement. They're sorry, Ellen. Sorry, Ellen. I understand that you're probably one of the first outwardly lesbian women who paved the way for little psycho kids like me to live freely in this country and get high-level media jobs. I understand you paved the way for me, Ellen. I understand that you've been pandering for 10 years and you've done all the things in the book, but how dare you tell the truth for 1 second, Ellen? How dare you say that Kevin Hart deserves a second chance because gay jokes are okay, and obviously people who did things that were non-politically correct in 2008, we all did. I'm tired of it. I'm getting crazier. Not literally crazier, but I'm starting to make more jokes, and I'm starting to push the envelope further. Not because I'm mean, because I'm not mean. And I know that political correctness, when you spend all day worrying about it's a loser, I'm saying a loser, but it's a brand that makes billions of dollars off of you, dressing with chains and clothes. Oh, look, I'm wearing Gucci. The big scoop is not the goofy little blackface, weird draft uniform thing that they gave people. Who cares? It's a company that exploits you for trying to be cooler than you are. And then there's literally slave trade and organ harvesting going on to literal Africans in a country because of some conservatives as well, but liberal politicians were in power at the time. No one cares. Like, no one actually cares about anything that matters. And that's a, extreme example, but there's 10 billion things that matter more than black. Katy Perry had shoes with black shoes with eyes and a mouth on it. I saw crazy activists actually getting mad at that, because then it's like they turned on each other and they were like, you looked at that shoe and thought it was a black person? It's just a shoe. Like, even crazy fringe extremists were mad at that. They were like, they're like, wait, we were trying to not be racist, but now they think we're racist. You can't win with these people because they don't actually care about anything. And they're the most racist and hateful people. They don't like anybody who is self-confident, self-empowered, not a total psycho that just gets mad at everything that doesn't matter. You need to look at the room. That's the fringe group. And honestly, I'm telling you, and I'm going to move on to the next story real quick. It's backfiring so hard. Somebody close to me who's been a Democrat their whole life because of unions. They've never voted Republican once. They've never voted for Trump. They don't like Trump. Literally, they're not a fan of Trump at all. I tried to explain to them for years. They said, no, I'm Democrat. They called me this week and they said, I'm going to probably vote for Trump in 2020 because I'm so tired of liberal media elite liars. It was off of the Joy Behar thing, because they're always talking about blackface and how not racist they are. And then she's in blackface and she's like, oh no, I'm different because I'm pretending to be a pretty black woman, so it's totally different. Well, what if I'm in blackface and I'm pretending to be a pretty black man? What if I'm dressing up as Dennis Rodman for Halloween, although I wouldn't do that? It's like, relax. You can't do it. Like, the people are tired of the political correctness and the lies and the blatant, just like, refusal to acknowledge basic society. And big government and pandering to these ethnicities doesn't work. It doesn't work for white people. It doesn't work for America. It doesn't work for black people. It doesn't work for Hispanics. Literally, it's a lose, lose, lose. California, highest taxes, highest poverty, craziest homeless problem, most small businesses leaving the country to China. It goes hand in hand when you incentivize laziness and you incentivize poverty and you incentivize the lack of self-awareness and self-accountability, and you baby grown adults to the point where they used to say there's no jobs. There's more job openings than ever. There's lowest Hispanic unemployment, lowest woman unemployment, lowest disability unemployment, lowest black unemployment. Who knows if there's lowest white unemployment, because no one cares about them anymore in the media, so they just have to pander. Even Republicans have to pander. They're like, we can't talk about white people. They'll call me racist for telling the truth. It's like, geez, that's why I like the term American. We're all American. And that's why they don't want you to like Trump, because Trump loves all Americans and America. And anybody, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Jew, who loves America too and wants to stand up for basic values, they're ready to smear you. And we're tired of it. The final story. Make sure you guys, after this, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's linked to the top. I have new live streams on there. I did a 4-hour live stream. Extremely unnecessary, but it was pretty fun. Subscribe there because I'm doing live streams on there. And also I'm going to take these clips and chop them up, put it on YouTube. I'll still do Facebook live streams. Don't worry, people. Anomaly. I do so many videos. Some people do like 2 videos a month and you never give them trouble. I do like 50 videos a week and people are like, Anomaly, I don't like when you rap. Anomaly, you got to stream to Facebook 7 times a week instead of 3 times a week. Come on. I need to take a vacation, but today was too juicy. I was going to relax today, but I was like, man, it's a juicy, juicy day. And I'm hungry. All right, that was weird. All right, we'll back that up. But subscribe to my YouTube. Sign up to my free email list, please. It's 100% free. I barely send emails. People are like, Anomaly, I don't get emails. It's fine. Just give me your email. This way, when something happens, I'll let you know, like if I get banned from Facebook. So just sign up, and then we'll stay in touch if I go on tour or something. And also, thank you to everybody supporting on Patreon, Donor Box. And then I have a PayPal thing now, so if you want to do it directly to PayPal, that's probably best. YouTube, I got super chats when I go live. Check out my YouTube streams when I do it, because I like the super chat thing. One, I actually get paid, But also, it's cool because someone can pay and then I'll answer the question immediately. It incentivizes people to do so, but also it's like I'll answer your question. It's a pretty cool value system. Although I will say that communist YouTube takes 30% of it, and then of course the government's going to take 30%. So just a lesson in socialism, 60% of that, gone, 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 but it's all good. I get it. They got server costs, and they got to pay a bunch of liberals $100,000 a year to censor people like me, so I get it. Thank you guys. That's my little side rant, but please subscribe, support, and if you don't do anything, sign up to my free email list. It's 100% free. There's no catch, literally. Final story of the day.